using infrared about what's going on. Your phone is doing that. The tablet's doing that. The computer's doing that. All your smart meters are doing that. Your smart appliances are doing that. Your PlayStation, your Xbox, even my Mavic drone, you can adjust the sensors on it to let it know. And they're infrared cameras, and they're just as detailed as the one that you get to use, except for you don't get to record with that. I'm sure China, takes all that data. But that actually is a real thing that they are doing to the planet to keep track of everything, and it's happening down here on the ground level too. And people forget that. A lot of people are getting surprised because they captured themselves in a security camera, and then they see that their phone is taking pictures of them nonstop. But it's not just your phone. It's the traffic stop, the traffic cameras. It's all of your mobile devices, your smart meters, all of your smart devices. Everything is doing that in conjunction. So they're getting an immediate, real-time, three-dimensional picture of everyone. So I don't know how you could change that over to keeping track of like weather and things like that. But what's all that going to do if our magnetic field does kind of completely collapse, since it's moving around right now? We have a good example of that 42,000 years ago. That's when all of the other hominids disappeared. So Neanderthal, all of these other humans, they disappeared when the magnetic field collapsed. So we're kind of looking at that situation now.
How do they study that? How do they know that? Like, what evidence?
Rock. They have rock. You have glacial information and different stuff. Most of it comes from rock. They can tell which direction the magnetic field was going at a certain time for lava flows, different stuff like that.
Wow.
Well, and it's never the Earth. I don't think I keep hearing this thing about the Earth flipping. The Earth physically is not going to flip. The magnetic poles are moving. The geostationary poles are not going to flip. The Earth is not flipping. It's just the magnetic fields. As a matter of fact, at certain times, there's more than one pole. There's like 2 or 3 north poles, 2 or 3 south poles. And there's no way that they could, know what's going to happen in those kind of magnetic environments.
So if we have all that data, and like you said, we can follow these glacier movements and stuff like that and understand what kind of period we're moving into, why are they pushing climate change so bad?
I have no idea.
Every commercial, like a Burger King commercial, will be about climate change now.
Yeah, that same information
I don't think it is that way
the ice
anymore,
is growing.
So this came up in the debates.
internet.
One of the big talking points around the debate with Trump and Kamala was that climate change only got about 30 seconds. And instead of answering the question, they immediately just deflected and started talking about something else. And a lot of people pointed out, wow, when climate change can't get a seat at the presidential debate, it's no longer become a priority for these people.
Right.
One of the challenges for me is, I'm certainly fine with believing that humans are polluting to a large degree, and they want to blame the United States for it, but it's largely Southeast Asia and South Asia. So pollution is bad, but the problem I have is Barack Obama buying waterfront property while advocating for climate change, saying the water levels are going to be rising and things like this. Right. Certainly, you make the argument, but the water will rise over 100 years. But they've made even crazier arguments. Greta Thunberg said, 4 years ago, we had 3 years left before irreparable damage would take place. Now Greta Thunberg is screaming about Israel. Greta Thunberg made a video where she said, Israel is climate change because the energy companies, they are funding Israel. And it's like, so climate change is an activist thing is dead. Fundraising for it is gone. Greta Thunberg is pivoting to Israel because she's got no career in climate change. I feel like the whole narrative is gone.
Well, think about this.
Slide number 27.
About 12,800 years ago, something happened that eventually caused the ocean to rise 400 feet. The problem with that is that we had a lot of ice. Where is it? No, not immediately. It didn't happen immediately. But my question is where's all of this ice where's all the water going to come from to raise the ocean?
So this slide is this is the Sahara, and when was this?
6,000 years prior. So you're looking at present data versus 6,000 years prior. So, when you talk about water erosion on the Sphinx, that would be during this time. But, that puts the dating of the Sphinx into question if there's water erosion at 6,000 years prior and they were supposed to create the Sphinx 4,000 years ago. But that's a different topic. But it's showing you that the possibilities of the West African monsoon coming back in and changing pattern right now is one of the reasons we're seeing an enormous amount of floods across North Africa and the Sahel, which comes into the point where I would talk about if we know that certain areas are going to get cooler on the planet and we'll lose crop production, then where would you set up a new growing zone knowing that it was also in change to become more wet from the above ground water resources, and then as well the amount of aquifers below that, maybe the Nubian sandstone aquifer or the Sus aquifer. You know, we're talking about thousands of cubic kilometers of water beneath there that could be tapped and brought up to supplement the above ground water rainfall. And slide 28 is just a little bit easier to want to look at as well. Just a little easier version for you, but you can see the change and also the pockets within that of desertification and also forest, even though it's in the desert. You know, the oases is what people talk about. But you can see this Holocene change and the mid-Holocene changes. So we're coming back into a gigantic change. They're not building the new Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia that's filling to have the largest hydroelectric project in Africa, in one of the driest parts of Africa, unless you know the cycle's changing to consistent rainfall.
So I have a question, right? You're saying that, 6 to 8,000 years ago, Sahara was largely forested?
6,000.
6,000 years ago. Honest question, what happens to all of the organic matter as it starts drying up and decaying? Are there remnants left behind, or does it disintegrate into brittle dust, or what?
Well, that's part, but then the sand, because there's no more root structure to hold that, yes, you'll find an enormous amount of, I wouldn't say petrified, but root stock there of the larger trees that's still beneath the sand, and also the massive, massive amount of buildings, ancient cities, aqueducts, and things that were through those trade routes there from over at the Red Sea all the way to the Atlantic stretching back.
Wait, you're saying that in the Sahara, there's evidence of ancient cities and all this stuff?
Everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Everywhere.
Cool.
Well,
You ever heard of Michael Tellinger?
I have.
He does a lot of the
South
Africa stone circles. That's basically along the same concept. These are thousands and thousands of years old, and it's like like sound frequency designs. They're not structures where people lived. These are like power plants almost, in a way. It's wild stuff. Michael Tellinger, incredible guy.
They find petroglyphs out there in the Sahara that show hippo, giraffe, all kinds of stuff. We know that area was a wetland for multiple times. Back into the Pleistocene too, there was all kinds of animals. That's one of the areas that man was first running around in North Africa.
Do we have that graph of remember we were talking last night about the Honga Tonga volcano that went off?
And there's where all your water's been coming from.
I do. I
Right
have
over
that here.
North Africa. If you notice it, that's what's
slide
aiding
number
in
9.
Africa looking green right now.
Slide number 19. And we could talk about the African megalakes. You see those black structures in that last one. Those are megalakes, larger than our Great Lakes. But this is the amount of water vapor that had been pushed up into the upper atmosphere, into the mesosphere from the Hunga Tonga eruption. Now, this goes through every single layer further down, and you'd know, Norma, this is in the mesosphere up around 85,000 feet. Look how much extra water is up there right now. Wow.
Yeah.
This explains a lot of different cloud formations that are happening, and you can bring it down into the different hectopascals. You know, 10 is the highest there, but we get down to like 26 HPA or 26.
Now, why was there so much flooding after 2022?
Yeah, because additional 14% more moisture in the Earth's atmosphere ejected in a single event.
And this was in 2022?
Correct.
Talk about cloud seeding.
So what do you think is going to happen? That it's going to rain a whole lot, and then we're going to get way more water on various parts of the planet?
Well, not that, but you could probably explain it better. Like when this water is coming back out, how does it integrate with the storms? Now, you can ride on top of a natural cycle to get a larger output, and this is what I think you're getting into with trying to manipulate these weather systems now. If you knew there was more moisture coming in from the rain out of all the water, 14% more moisture in our atmosphere coming out at a certain rate, depending on how high it is in the atmosphere, Earth's magnetic field is changing, and then you're going to ride on top of this natural cycle and try to create a different outcome of these previously unattainable, because everything is now, there's 2 extra variables in there for you to actually manipulate on top of what you could do with the regular cloud seeding or what you're talking about with NEXRAD over there, which I had a couple questions about the power output on NEXRAD and the actual storm and the watts per meter squared from the sun. Now, this is interesting here since you're on that slide. This is the Shepherd's Cross coming up on December 6th this year. Now, electromagnetically, will it generate larger earthquakes, or is there a possibility for storm enhancement during this time? Jupiter, Earth, Mercury, Sun, Venus, Earth, Mars in this cross, and they call it the Shepherd's Cross.
When's the last time that happened?
I don't have a date for you. You'd have to look it up.
It's something that happened.
So what is it?
Well, if you believe it's just strictly gravity, if you think that the Jupiter being one of the largest gravity bodies, I'm more into the electromagnetics of it versus just strictly gravity pulling. Mercury, as its iron core, is well known to shut down sunspots when they're directly Earth-facing, so there's some interaction there. So if you have the largest gravitational body in with the Earth with a known iron core planet that shuts down or amplifies, it has an effect on solar activity in a line crossed with those